Good evening, everyone. I'm Thomas Jenkins. Welcome to WFUZ-TV. I'm here with Blair, Castro, and we're continuing our coverage of the election here in Gulf Shores for 2025. August 26th, don't forget to vote. Deadline to register for voting is August 11th. Blair, what are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about potential voter suppression, voter intimidation, and some of the obstacles that have been in the way regarding intimidation in voting, the voting process in general here locally. And a lot of people may not be happy about this video, they're not going to like what we're talking about, but it was so important to talk about it now before the election because people need to have this aired out. We need to hold people accountable, and we need to make sure we have a fair, transparent election process where everyone gets a real chance to register to vote themselves, and they're not intimidated to vote a particular way based on what current staff, employees, workers are trying to make them feel. So we just want to be open and honest and talk about the voting process today.
So I'm going to get started. There I was at the candidate debate for the, what do you call that? The City Council? Yeah, City Council. She's running for place 5. Vote Blair Castro, place 5. We were there at the debate and she killed it. And after the debate, she is talking with some constituents and her daughter goes to be with her, and I'm left in the back of the room, which is fine. I want to be back there and I just want to kind of chill by myself. It had been a long day. And along comes this woman I had not seen before, did not recognize, and she introduces herself and says that I was rude to her on a Facebook post, and then proceeds to try to bully me somehow, talking to me aggressively. And then immediately following, this woman named Toby Waters, who is also a city worker, comes up, and they're both cornering me in the back of this room, rapid firing questions at me, demanding answers about who was ignoring Blair when she tried to make contact with the city. And she took it as a personal jab at her to the point where she actually snarled at me as she walked away, as if that was going to somehow intimidate me. And also Emily Tidwell as well just spoke at me aggressively and was asking things that only Blair can answer, and I tried to tell them to go talk to Blair about it because she's the one who's running she's the candidate, thank you, doing the campaign, and I'm not part of this, but I will defend her. I will defend her every time. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you think I'm rude, and that's exactly what I conveyed, because I said, be that as it may, even though you thought me rude, that did not usurp the message that I was saying and why Blair is running. We were ignored. We were ignored by the mayor and the current city council. That's why she's running. It has nothing to do with Toby Waters. It has nothing to do with Emily Tidwell. Don't understand the need to physically come and be in my face and being aggressive like that. And I don't appreciate that. That's not becoming of what a city clerical worker does, especially when it comes to elections and voters. That's what we call them, voter intimidation, although I was not intimidated in the slightest.
So going back to their initial complaint or question they had towards me, which they did not ask me personally, I want to address that right now. So the person that ignored me, the main person, was Robert Kraft, the current mayor. I wrote emails, which I have posted a screenshot of that email in the Baldwin County Citizens Watch group. It is there. There is a screenshot of when I wrote him, his email there, and me saying hello, my introduction, and trying to get in touch with him. I did that to every mayor in Baldwin County, every single one. And some wrote back and some didn't. And some made time for me and some didn't. He never wrote back. He never made time for me. I had never met nor spoken to Mayor Robert Kraft, even though I had reached out and tried to, ever, until the mayor's debate, which was right after the city council debate. And that was a strange experience of itself too, because Robert Kraft came up to me, I saw him, we locked eyes, I shook his hand, I said, hello, great to meet you, Mayor Kraft. And he was like, loudly, with other people around, oh, Blair, we've met before. And that was strange because I literally had never met him before. He had never shook my hand nor spoke to me until that very night, and it was almost like he was trying to gaslight me or something into thinking we had met, but I know we haven't. I've tried. I would definitely have remembered, given the opportunity to sit down with Mayor Kraft, because I have a ton of things I've been wanting to talk to him about and have never had that opportunity. Even still now, I haven't had that opportunity. So if you're out there, Mayor Kraft, and somehow you're watching this, I would like the opportunity to meet down or sit down and talk with you and actually meet and tell you who I am, what I would like to see changed, but so far I haven't been offered that. And so far, Angie Swiger has offered me that. And that's why I'm supporting Angie Swiger very openly and proudly, because she's listened and cared. And she's been nothing but helpful throughout my entire process of living in Gulf Shores. So that's where I stand on that. And the interaction with Mayor Kraft was weird that night. But, you know, be that as it may, that's what happened. So I sent in the group a screenshot of that. City employees, if you're wondering who ignored me, I'm not talking about you as employees. Actually, in the other podcast we did, which was called We Tried That in a Small Town and This Is How It's Going. That was where I talked about why I'm running for office. I even said in that podcast, you can go back on our WFUZ-TV page and find it. Toby Waters was the first person to ever write me back and respond. Toby Waters is awesome. That was the words I used. Toby Waters is awesome because she is responsive. But I shouldn't have had to sift through the city website after calling the council members and reaching out to the mayor until I got to the clerk. And I was like, well, this looks like the third person in charge. I tried to start at the top. I shouldn't have had to keep going down until a paid staff member wrote me back. That was the kind of the point. It shouldn't have got to that point. I think as elected representatives, they should have been the first to respond, but they were not. And then I credited her for responding. So I have been open about that. I posted the screenshot. I'm not sure where the question is. If you have more questions, I'm happy to answer or forward you the emails or whatever you want to do and show you how Orange Beach responded too, which I've talked about. And we have Mayor Kennan over here. I talked about it too. The way Orange Beach responded was great. The way Gulf Shores responded, there wasn't a response. So moving back onto the subject here.
So we're talking about voter intimidation. Do we want to stay on that, or do we want to circle back to voter suppression potentially at the office that we went to?
Yes, let's talk a little bit about the process of registering to vote for me. When I first moved here, I switched from Escambia County, Florida to Baldwin County, Alabama as a voter. And in order to do that, I had to fill out a paper form because at the time when I did this, I did not have an Alabama license or star ID. I had a Florida one. And otherwise I was going to have to go, it was going to be a lot longer to just fill out the form. So I was told, snail mail this paper in to the Baldwin County office, and I followed the instructions on the website. I did everything I was supposed to do. And then I got an email and a physical piece of mail from the Escambia County Supervisor of Elections office. We will come back to the Supervisor of Elections position in a minute. I get an email from Supervisor of Elections saying you have been unregistered. I'm like, cool, that means I'm going to be registered in Baldwin because
That's in the state of Florida, correct?
Yes, Escambia County, Florida. And they mailed it to my new house in Alabama, and they, unregistered me in Florida, but they couldn't re-register me in Alabama. That's a job for the Secretary of State or the Board of Registrars. That's what I was told. So I call Montgomery at a certain point because it came to my attention, wait a minute, I don't see a new voter registration card with like my precinct or my party info or any of that. How do I get that? And then they were like, well, your application is still pending. It had been, at that point, a month since I had resubmitted all the paperwork and been unregistered from Florida. So I was like, that's weird. Why is it pending for a month? I don't know why it wouldn't be. So I reached out to Montgomery in the office, and they said, you can go physically to a Board of Registrars within the closest one to you, which was Fairhope. Right? Fairhope?
I believe so, yes.
It was Fairhope. So we go there and walk into the building, and he's with me, and I'm telling them about, I called Montgomery, told to come down here, my application is still, they pull it up on the computer, like, oh yeah, it's still pending, I'm not sure why, but we kind of get the runaround, and the lady working there in the Fairhope office at the Board of Registrars, like, dismisses me to go away, like, don't worry about it, call back. Oh, and I had called a bunch before we physically went up there, because that's an hour from us. So it's an hour there and an hour back, and it takes like a huge chunk of the day to go to Fairhope to check on that.
Another instance of having to drive through this hellacious traffic to another town to do business at a courthouse or a registrar's office.
Yes, at that annex. So, driving up there wasn't ideal, but I was so willing to do it because I wanted my physical voter ID card. I wanted that card so I could prove to people, anybody that wanted to question me, oh, you're not a registered voter in Baldwin County. Yes, I am. Here's my freaking card. That's what I wanted. So we go up there, and they're telling me, well, sometimes it takes a while, and I was like, it does not take a month to register one, especially when the other county unregistered me right away. Like, what is taking so long? So she brushes me off and ignores me. A older gentleman, comes out of the back, and he goes, wait a minute. And he appeared
I want
to
to say
recognize
this
me.
part. Yes, I was watching his face, and there was a telltale facial body language of recognition when she said her name, and everything seemed to click. And then what happened?
And then he went into the back office and spoke to the lady quietly, and then all of a sudden he said, check back tomorrow morning, this will all be fixed. Give us a call and we'll confirm. And it happened. Like the next morning I called, it was fixed, I had looked in the system, there I was, registered Republican with my address, Baldwin County, everything that was supposed to have been there months before was now there perfectly in the system, and then I get a card mailed out to my house expeditiously after that. So it was strange. It was like they didn't care and they weren't going to do their job until that specific man came out and he made sure it got done. So, kudos to him, but it shouldn't take a specific person to kind of light bulb moment and go, oh, maybe we need to get the front of the house employees here and hold them accountable. Like the whole process was odd.
It's like you have to raise hell to get anything done around here. You're just not listened to. You have to kind of snap people to attention. It's ridiculous.
And I said that I wish we would have had, some sort of meta glasses or something to record these interactions because it was just so unbelievable. The difference in how we were treated at first between how he came out and treated us and the difference in nothing got done, but wait, this one person had the power to make it happen. There's always a person there with the power to make these things happen. They just don't want to pull those people out of the back. The people in the front are just kind of, they don't seem to care as much a lot of the time. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but our experience has been everything is like pulling teeth. Everything is a struggle. Everything involves bouncing around from Robertsdale to Fairhope to Bay Minette to Gulf Shores to Orange Beach to Foley. It is one constant long drive stuck in traffic between various annexes, city, county, state. It is just a boondoggle mess, and we're tired of it.
Boondoggle mess. I like it. Let's circle on back to voter intimidation in relation to poll workers. Let's put a nice bow on this. Yes. You start.
So there's a Facebook group that I ran across called the Fair Vote Coalition, and they are promoting voter fair votes, making sure the machines are working, making sure the poll workers are fair, making sure we have transparency in elections. And, given 2020 and how different people feel about that, voter fairness and transparency and accountability is super, super important, and half of our country is really passionate about that, as is understandable in my mind. So I am from an area, another thing I want to talk about real quick, where we have a supervisor of elections position that oversees everything involving elections. They send the sample ballots. There is one elected official who is a neutral, impartial person, nonpartisan, who oversees every election, Democrat, Republican, nonpartisan, local, whatever, within that county. It's a county elected position. And they usually serve a very long time because it is supposed to be the most unpolitical elected position there is. So in our county, we actually had a really great one for many, many years. He was wonderful. We never had problems with elections. Everything was super transparent. He would invite people in to inspect the machines. He would have all these public events where you could test the machines out. He would bring them out and take them to schools and county functions and just show people this is what we're working with. And he was very good. Shout out to Mr. David Stafford. He was a great supervisor of elections. So I come here to Alabama and I'm like, who's our supervisor of elections? In my naivete, we don't have one in Alabama. The system is set up totally different. So the person that oversees the elections is actually the probate department. The probate office sends out your sample ballots and does all this. Administration is probate. Registration is the board of registrars. And election day logistics is the sheriff's department. So it's kind of a three-tiered organizational collaboration there to make elections work. And I just hadn't experienced that before. But essentially, the probate office is what sends this stuff out. I think Alabama should have a countywide supervisor of elections too, because I think that's a good way for people to vote in a neutral person to hold everyone else accountable.
Because there has to be a neutral person.
Yes, as we will talk about here in a minute.
But should we talk about the voting machine event first?
Yes. So when I first filed to run for office, he is with me again, and we come up to the city clerk, Ms. Waters, Toby.
Toby Waters, the one that cornered me at the debate? Yes, that one.
She's also been she is the one person who responds to me and everyone there at the city. She's been nothing but helpful up until this point, and we come to the city office and she tells me, hey, there's going to be an event where you can come inspect the machines, a public notice will be sent out, and candidates and everybody can come look at the machines and, see the process of how they're being used. I was like, cool, we will definitely be there for that. Definitely. And I kind of was like, what's happening with this? We didn't heard anything about it. And then I finally emailed again. And I was like, hey, when is this going to be? And she did write me back and give me a date at that point. And that was just like last week. That wasn't very long ago. And the event is going to be on the 18th at the election barn in Bay Minette. So that is where we'll get to inspect the machines and make sure they're working properly. And until I wrote that email asking about it, we hadn't had that sent out to the candidates, or public notice was not posted anywhere. So at that point, she wrote me back, and then maybe 2 hours later, she writes all the candidates and tells us this is going to happen. But when I spoke to other candidates, they hadn't been told. Some had, I think 1 or 2 had, but some were like, I never got told there was going to be an election inspecting things. So I wondered if it just slipped the mind, or why some people knew about it and some didn't. But it is happening. We did all get sent the notice. But it was strange in that I had to ask for that date, and then it got sent to me, and then it got sent to everybody. And it was kind of like, if we wouldn't have asked, like, well, would it have even happened? Would it have been, like, sent to everybody, or would it kind of been like, oh, you didn't see this? Like, hidden within the website somewhere. It's a lot of things like that happening that I feel like we have to really press for information.
It's a pattern countywide. Municipality, county office, it's teeth pulling, it's inadequacy, ineptitude, whatever you want to call it. And being told that you're rude if you have a problem with it.
So going back to the Fair Vote page on Facebook that I followed and liked one of their posts that was calling for fair votes. I mean, how crazy. You want a fair vote. You want a fair election. This woman, Evelyn Sanders, writes me on Facebook, and she's like, I know you made this page. I know this is you. I know you're the one. I'm like, I didn't.
A direct accusation?
Yes. She said, well, you liked it. And I was like, well, so? That doesn't mean I made the page. It means I just like what they're doing, which I do. I think there should be fair votes. I think election workers should be neutral. And I think there should be more neutrality, nonpartisan races in particular. So I was like, whatever. She thinks I made the page, but I didn't, for the record. And I don't know who did, but, I appreciate the work going into calling for fair elections and to oversight on these machines.
Yeah.
So that was my first interaction with her. Then I noticed her commenting on some of Joey Ward's videos, some of different mutual friends' videos, some of Robert Kraft's posts. She would come on Robert Kraft's post, she would come on Steve Jones's post, who I'm running against, and she would just say, I'm voting for all the incumbents. None of these new people know anything. Clearly, they don't know anything. You've been doing such a great job. And she was very, very... And that's fine. Everybody has the right to their opinion. That is totally fine.
But as a poll worker, you are not supposed to interfere in elections and insert your personal opinion, and especially in the rate and style that she's doing. Well,
it does give me cause for questioning a poll worker, and she's like the top poll worker too, who's right under the city clerk, who I believe is like the one in charge of her. I could be wrong about that. I don't really understand the organizational structure of poll workers.
And she's been there for decades.
Like 64 years she's been a poll worker, which, I respect if you're being neutral and doing your job and giving everyone a fair chance to vote. But then different stories started coming out. Different people started coming to us and others. Apparently, there's over 104 complaints filed with her of the Ethics Commission of the state, the Secretary of State's office or something, about her trying to intimidate or turn people away at the polls in the past. I didn't live here in Baldwin County in past elections, so I couldn't tell you about that. But other people are saying that. I'm just the messenger here. I haven't experienced that because I haven't actually voted in Baldwin County before. This will be my first vote, my first time living here, in a voting cycle. So I'm excited to do that. And I definitely don't think people should be deterred or turned away or asked questions or anything of that nature. Everyone should have a right to vote if they're registered. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Her heels she wanted to die on today in one of our posts was that term limits will never happen. Like, what even kind of stance is that, really?
Well, in the video I had posted, it was my clip from the debate where I talked about what I wanted to be remembered for, and I said I wanted to be remembered for setting a precedent of only serving 2 terms and recognizing that real leadership is knowing when to walk away, to mentor others, and to, think of the future, not make it about me, but make it about other people. It was about setting a precedent. I didn't say, like somebody came in the comments and was like, well, only the state can do that. Well, no kidding. I know that. I'm aware. I never said that in my post.
It's amazing how many people come on these posts and try to twist words and make things appear as they're not in the video, but in the comment section, because they know people probably read comments more than they do watch videos. But if we make a video, please watch it and listen to our words before you believe anybody in the comment section.
Right. We say everything on video, and we'll say everything to your face or to a meeting as well, unlike a lot of people out here. So That was me saying I wanted to be remembered for setting a precedent of 2 terms, for term limits being a self-imposed term limit more than that, but if the state wants to impose them, statutorily, I'm okay with that too, and I definitely support that. But that's nothing I can do on the city council. All I can do is self-impose term limits and live the way I was saying, like President Washington did. I want to emulate that. And that was all I was saying. And she was just like, that'll never happen. Well, I'm not advocating for the state. I'm not saying I'm going to change the state law. I'm not saying
it's public to do that publicly and on social media forums and such under the color of being an authoritative figure in elections is unbecoming, unprofessional, and we're going to investigate the unethical of it as well, guaranteed.
So then we come across this city council meeting from June where Miss Sanders, the head poll worker, is speaking at the meeting, and she gets up there and she goes, they tell me I can't be political, but I'm here and I'm politicking. And then she goes on to praise the current council, said, I know you guys would never give me any trouble, and talks about, other people giving her trouble, goes on and on at this meeting in a very biased way, which I feel like as a head poll worker is probably not becoming. I'm not even sure of the legalities of it, but it feels innately wrong. It feels like someone who's supposed to be in such a prominent neutral position should not be behaving in that way. But
so she talked trash about an opposing mayoral candidate that she doesn't support, and she also had more allotted time than the average person, from what I understand.
Yeah, she goes on for like 7 minutes at the public forum, and I believe public forums are 5 minutes, possibly. Unless
it's different from county and the municipal.
I think it is different from county. I think they get 5 at the city, but she goes on for 7 minutes, roughly. And I don't know why she was offered more time or what's going on with that, but then they give her a round of applause because she's allegedly too. She babysat Robert Kraft. I can't confirm the accuracy of that, but that's people are saying that she was like his babysitter. And she's very, very close with the incumbents, and that's cool. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, of course, but should you really be so loud and out and proud with your opinions if you're supposed to be the head
insider
person?
deals.
It is questionable, the ethics of that, in my opinion. I don't know, but supposedly the Ethics Commission has all these complaints about her, and they'll investigate it, and I, am confident that they will return something, give a result. And yeah, it's interesting how many little things, like little scare tactics they try to pile on, and I'm not talking about anyone in particular, they as in are different aspects of the government, city workers, poll workers, systems themselves, offices. There's so many obstacles that if you are not a determined, consistent person who's willing to, okay, I'm going to fight every single hurdle, then you're going to get bogged down and you're going to give up. And I think that's what they want from people. They don't want an easy process where you register to vote and then you go vote. They want it to be like, oh, what a hassle, I don't want to deal with this. And that's one way they suppress the votes, through making the process harder than it needs to be.
I want every city worker and official to take pause and take a moment and reflect on the term public servant.
That's your moment of reflection.
That's been your moment of WFUZ-TV reflection. More coming at you later this week. We've got a ton of interviews still in the queue that we're editing. If you'd like to support the show, I've got coffee, locally roasted, fresh, craft by me. Shout out to the Viagra age males that are going to make fun of this little top knot in the comments, by the way. But yeah, I'm selling this coffee. It's really good because I really care about coffee. Anything that I put my name on is going to be of the best quality because I believe in being the best.
Also, last reminder, there's 3 days to register to vote. And if you're seeing this after, August 11th is the last day. And then when you do register, do not give up. Do not be deterred. There's 2 polling locations. They will be open from, I believe, 6 to 6. Or 7 to 7 on election day. I don't know, but you can find it on the city website and all over Facebook, I'm sure. I will definitely repost it on our channel. But you can go to those voting stations and cast your vote. Do not be deterred, and preferably cast it in person using those machines that they are so proud of and that we are going to definitely go watch and make sure they're working. I am sorry, but absentee ballots for me, some people, if you're going to be out of town, that's okay. But for me, I am pro voting in person, making sure my ballot is in that machine and making sure it's counted. That's the only way I know. But you do you. For me, I'm an in-person kind of girl.
If you've been intimidated or feel like your vote might be suppressed, do not be afraid. Stand up, say it with your chest. We're not being quiet anymore as citizens. This is a peaceful revolution. We need change. Vote August 26th for change.